Hello, and welcome to the 184th episode of Gaming Talk. On this episode, I'm going to be discussing and giving my thoughts on both Injustice Gods Among Us and Injustice 2. Of course, let's start with the first game. Before I get into the game, I want to state right off that my experience with fighting games is basically none, as I've only ever played Transformers Forged to Fight and Marvel's Contest of Champions, both of which are mobile games that are overly simplified. So, Injustice is pretty much the first actual fighting game that I've ever played, and some of my complaints will probably reflect that. First place to start is with the tutorial, as I've never played such an infuriating tutorial in a game. I am over here trying to do whatever the tutorial I'm on is asking me to do, and I would do it. I would actually do it, and yet the tutorial wouldn't move to the next part of the tutorial, so I'd do what it asks again, and then I would skip to the next part of the tutorial because the game itself won't do it. They should have fixed their broken tutorial like 10 years ago, but whatever. Plus, there's stuff I feel like the tutorial doesn't bother to tell you about. The entire game, I had no idea what I was doing when those clashes would happen. And more often than not, I would be the one taking the damage from them, but I never figured out how to do better because the game fails to teach the player about that. Now, getting to what I even bought the game for, and that is the story, because the story is very interesting, and the only reason I wanted this game is to compare its story to the story told in the Injustice animated movie, and I think that I like the way the game tells the story over the movie. What happens is that the Joker uses Superman to basically destroy all of Metropolis, including Lois and their unborn child. Superman goes and kills the Joker, and then he basically sets up this one Earth government. Pretty much all of the heroes align themselves with Superman, except for Batman, and all that is on this alternate Earth. On the normal Earth, they all try to stop the Joker from detonating a bomb in Metropolis, and as the heroes converge on Joker and Harley, they all somehow get teleported to that alternate Earth. Regular Earth Batman ends up captured, and alternate Earth Batman gets a crew of regular Earth people composed of Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and I think that was it. Batman needed to unlock a kryptonite weapon for stopping Superman. They give it to Lex Luthor, who almost gets the shot off, but Shazam stops him and evil Superman kills him. Our insurrection group comes to the conclusion that the only way to end this is to bring over good Superman, and that's what they do. They bring over good Superman, and he's able to stop evil Superman and bring an end to all the bad stuff going on. They lock up evil Superman in a Red Sun prison, and the other heroes that aligned themselves with evil Superman turn themselves in, and that's basically it. I gotta be honest, there were some very interesting aspects to the story that I liked very much. The dynamic between Harleen, the other Earth's Harley, and Joker, regular Earth Joker, was interesting. Joker meets this alternate Earth Harleen, and she kind of falls for him quickly, but then she loses a fight against Lex Luthor, and so Joker was gonna kill her, but Lex stopped that, and Harleen realizes she's better off without the Joker in her life. There was a moment when evil Superman was saying that how he's going to destroy Metropolis and Gotham and invade regular Earth, and Shazam expressed how that all sounds insane, and so evil Superman kills him, and that's when alternate Earth Flash decided he's done being a part of that, and ends up helping alternate Earth Batman and crew from regular Earth. Honestly, the story presented in the game is really good and really well told, and I like it a lot. Now, if anyone watching this is like a veteran and is super amazing at fighting games, you're probably going to disagree with me here. You know, the person who's playing their first fighting game ever with this game. When I started this game, the difficulty was set automatically to medium, and I have to say medium difficulty is absurdly difficult in my opinion. The thing is that nowhere in the game is it mentioned that I could change the difficulty of the story mode, and that's something I feel like needs to be put somewhere. Just put a little pop-up, that says, oh, if you're having a hard time, go to settings and change the difficulty at any point. I really don't think asking for something like that is asking for all that much here. But when I was on medium difficulty, I would pretty much have to do every fight twice, and that was super frustrating and annoying, and I'm glad that I changed the difficulty to very easy, because I have a feeling that I would have gotten so frustrated that I would have uninstalled the game and never went back to it. I really don't think that I can handle this game on any other difficulty setting, because I think this game is way too difficult on something like medium. Another thing is that, like for me, if you're playing this game on PC, please, for the love of your sanity, use anything but keyboard and mouse, because I found keyboard and mouse controls to be just so overly complicated that, like even in the tutorial stage, I felt like I needed 3 hands to play the game on keyboard and mouse. So you know what? I brought out my Xbox One wired controller, and that was a great move on my part. I wouldn't say it made things better, I wouldn't say it made things worse, but I would say it certainly helped. And I say that, again, as a person who is incredibly inexperienced with fighting games, the game in general feels too complicated. You have to be so precise with hits and blocks and dodging, and just timing is everything. Also, having not only memorized the absurd number of combos, but also which combos chain with other combos, like, I'm just gonna be that person and say that I can't be bothered to do all that. There's no way I'm memorizing that many moves and combos. Honestly, I just mashed and lucked my way through the story fights because that's all I was there for. I don't intend on playing against people online. I don't think you can anymore though. But yeah. And yes, I know that I am probably going to get people saying, oh, if you can't be bothered to memorize combos, then don't play fighting games. And I know that, because anyone who says that is correct, and I know that. I did what I needed to do to get through the story mode, and was done with the game after that and moved on. Another minor complaint is that the game was short, and it took me just a little over 4 hours to finish the story mode. Honestly, that makes me very glad that I only paid like $5 for this game on sale, as anything else would made the game not worth it. Another minor complaint is how the characters look. Most of the male characters just look really big and buff, and like too much, that it looks really unnatural. But on the flip side, the female characters are very thin, and some are just like too tall. The only one that looks normal is Harleen. But yeah, the tutorial was broken and frustrating. The difficulties above very easy are absurdly difficult, and the graphics are just not the best, but the story is really well told, and that's what I care about. Injustice: Gods Among Us is a good and enjoyable game. Now, let's go on to the sequel. In terms of the story, Injustice 2 introduces Brainiac as the central threat. He's on Earth because Superman and Supergirl are there, and is collecting Kryptonians because his collection is incomplete without those two. Now, at first, Batman thinks that he and the other heroes can defeat Brainiac themselves, but they realize they need Superman, who had been locked up in the Red Sun prison since the end of the first game. So they release Superman, and they all work together to defeat Brainiac and undo all the damage he caused. Of course, as soon as they're done, Superman turns on Batman, and we have to defeat him once again, and the story ends with Superman getting banished to the Phantom Zone. Now, the most obvious thing is that Injustice 2 looks so much better than the first game does. I mean, this one did release 4 years later, so it's gonna look better graphically. But also the way the characters, too, like, they don't look overly buff anymore, and I like that. Something that really does bother me with Injustice 2 is that there's some voice actor changes that I'm not particularly fond of. The one I don't like the most is Green Lantern. I chose Steve Blum for Green Lantern in this game, and don't get me wrong, I love that voice actor. Transformers Prime Starscream all the way. But I don't think his voice fits Green Lantern, and I wish the voice actor from the first game would have come back for this one. There are, however, plenty of new characters in Injustice 2 that were not in the first game at all. You've got Supergirl, Reverse Flash, Poison Ivy, Starfire, Black Lightning, Atrocitus, Gorilla Grodd, Blue Beetle, Deadshot, Black Canary, Swamp Thing, Cheetah, Scarecrow, Dr. Fate, Firestorm, Captain Cold, Enchantress, Raiden, Hellboy, Adam, Darkseid, Red Hood, Power Girl, Sub-Zero, the Ninja Turtles, Grid, Mr. Freeze, Jay Garrick's version of the Flash, and Vixen. Although when you really think about it, the first game also has characters that do not return in this game, which are Deathstroke, Lex Luthor, Shazam, Hawkgirl, Raven, Doomsday, Killer Frost, Ares, Lobo, Batgirl, General Zod, Martian Manhunter, Scorpion, and Zatanna. Yeah, so this makes both games, I guess, a little unique, as both games have very different character rosters, and I personally think that's a good thing. Even the returning characters are not all the same in the sense that they all have completely different super moves, ones that I personally think look better than how they did in the first game. Now, there are some character-related stuff in Injustice 2 that I think the first game does better. In Injustice 2, you no longer are just leveling your profile or whatever it's called. Now everything is tied to individual character levels. So in the first game, I think I got my profile level up to like 37. And so I unlocked, a bunch of hero card stuff based on that, and that was it. The hero card challenge unlocks are basically the same, but the biggest reason that Injustice 2 has individual character levels is because of gear that is unlocked through the mother boxes, aka loot boxes. Yes, Injustice 2 has loot boxes. Specifically, it has 4 different kinds of them that are earned through regular gameplay, through grinding, and that to me is a big downside. In the first game, if I wanted to play, say, as Cyborg in his Teen Titans look, I select Cyborg, I hit Y, I select his Teen Titans look, and bam, all done. Go into the fight, looking like that. Injustice 2 breaks things down into head, chest, leg, arm, armor, and also a particular weapon or thing that's specific to a character. Plus you have 2 ability slots. You have the augment slot and the shaders, but you don't get augment slots until characters hit level 30, but you have to have every character hit 30 to unlock that slot on all the characters. I find that dumb because you can get augments from loot boxes before you've even unlocked the slot, which is a little annoying to me. But you can get gear for your characters from loot boxes, and the gear is leveled as well, it can go up to level 20. So that means if Cyborg is level 6 and you get a legendary piece of gear that's level 20, you cannot use that on Cyborg until he hits level 20, and I do not like the way that is at all. Why are you giving me gear that is so far beyond the level of my character? I feel a little like some of the shaders don't make sense. There's a shader for Black Adam that is basically him in Shazam colors, because that's definitely something Black Adam would do. But what doesn't make sense to me is this. You have characters like Reverse Flash, Vixen, Mr. Freeze, and I'm probably forgetting some, that are in the shader section for other characters. Like, Reverse Flash is in the shader section for the Flash. Jay Garrick's Flash is in the same thing for the Flash. The John Stewart Green Lantern is a shader for Hal Jordan Green Lantern. Black Lightning is a shader for the Mortal Kombat character Raiden. Vixen is a shader for Cheetah. Like, none of that makes any sense to me. Why can't Reverse Flash and Black Lightning be separate characters in the roster? It makes sense, I guess, for the John Stewart Green Lantern, or someone like Grid, which is a shader for Cyborg. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense to me for them not to be their own characters on the roster. The last character-related thing I find strange is when it comes to DLC characters in both games. The first game, the only character that isn't a DC character is Scorpion, also from Mortal Kombat. Injustice 2, though, has Raiden and Sub-Zero, who are from Mortal Kombat, which I can excuse, because, these are the people that make Mortal Kombat. But they have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Why are the Ninja Turtles in a game that's predominantly DC character? You could have grabbed any character from the first game, like Deathstroke, Raven, Killer Frost, Doomsday, or Lobo, and made them DLC characters for Injustice 2. Heck, you could have grabbed Scorpion as well. I have nothing against the TMNT, but I don't see how they fit into the game. I mean, like I said, the Mortal Kombat characters, maybe they don't make sense either, but, these are the developers that make Mortal Kombat, so it does make sense to kind of pepper 2 or 3 of them in as DLC characters. I feel like the first game had more stages. Actually, I looked, and the first game has 15 stages, while Injustice 2 has 12. So, yeah, the first game has more stages. Injustice 2 does manage to have more characters at 40, whereas the first game only has 38, so not really that many more. The last major thing about Injustice 2 is how bad the grind is. As I've said, not only does the game have your profile level, but individual character levels. Each character can achieve up to level 30, and I looked this up, and according to what I found, which was not very specific, it would take over 100 fights per character to hit level 30 for each character. So that means it would be anywhere between 3,800 and 4,000 fights to get every single character fully leveled up, and that is insane to me. I'm sure there are people out there who would do that sort of grind, but from what I understand of fighting games, most people just pick their favorite character as their main and don't really change that up. Again, that's just from what I understand about a genre I know so very little about, so I could be wrong when I say that most people playing this game are not going to want to do that grind. Overall, I got what I wanted from this game. I wanted it for the story mode, like the first one, and while it may be short, it definitely doesn't disappoint. Again, glad that I only paid $5 for each of these games, given how short both of them are, because otherwise it wouldn't have been worth it. Injustice 2 is a good and enjoyable game. And that's going to do it for this episode. So if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.